My phone was dying, so I had to go grab Ian's phone. And I thought maybe I'd do it outside because it always looks a lot better out here. Um, and look, there's some beautiful rudbeckia behind me, so that's perfectly on theme, because the Ian and I had been laughing, which is like, the idea of what we we thought would be a good thing to talk about in the live video today, um, because we had the video that went out last week, which showed us doing some work around the farm, and it's been a while since we've had time in the videos to be able to show doing work around the farm, because we try to keep the videos only half an hour long, and there's a lot to show for the harvesting and the going to the market and everything. So we figured that having a week off from the market, it would be perfect time to show you guys some of the stuff that we do when we're every week. We do stuff every week, but we don't necessarily film it and show it. But as we were seeing all the comments, everyone's like, "Oh no, why are you cutting down all the rudbeckia?" Because there's like this scene where Ian has the hedge trimmers and he's just like cutting down all the flowers. And I had to like go back and rewatch the video to realize that we hadn't actually explained at all what we were doing when when we were hacking down all those plants, when Ian was doing all the cutting with the hedge trimmers. And it's something that we talk about, often, and we've shown in the videos often, and I'm sure we've like gone off about it a million times in these live videos too, which is a flower farm shouldn't look like this. A flower farm shouldn't actually have lots of flowers on it. when you're a flower farm and your farm is full of big, beautiful blooms, bright and cheery, you walk through the fields and there's flowers everywhere, or like the classic photo shoot, right? Like all the sunflowers around you, and the sunflowers are open and beautiful. That is like the dream of flower farming. But if you're actually a flower farmer and that is what your flower farm looks like, then that's kind of a nightmare, because most Bo, he's crying at me. Bo, come here. He's like walking towards me crying, pathetic little tears. Yeah, when you're a flower farmer, you don't want beautiful flowers. You want it to look like a sea of green, because most of the flowers that you cut before they're open and blooming. So this whole bed of big fluffy rudbeckia blooms, which rudbeckia is a little bit different. Oh, come here, Bo. Oh. Sorry guys, my data, I'm on data, so it's doing some weird things. Bo, he came running. He's so cute. So I'm distracted by having to give him kisses. Yeah, no, so most of your stuff should be closed. It shouldn't be open and blooming. And so if you're in a field and it's open and blooming, like our videos often are, it means that you don't have enough places to sell your flowers. It means that you didn't cut your flowers in time. It's not what a flower farm really should look like. A flower farm should not be full of flowers. So what was happening in that video is that we have a half bed of rudbeckia. This is a different rudbeckia bed. The rudbeckia that Ian was chopping down in the video is just a couple beds down. But the half bed of rudbeckia produces so much rudbeckia that it's hard to keep on top of it. Into the future, if we're selling more volume, then we would probably be using a lot more of it. But I had way more rudbeckia than I could use planted this year, and so what he was doing when he was cutting all the flowers down with the hedge trimmer is he was actually oh, he's so cute, and then it distracts me, and I forget what I'm talking about. When he was cutting down all the flowers with a hedge trimmer, he was deadheading. He was deadheading the flowers. And with the rudbeckia, the reason why he did it with a hedge trimmer instead of us going in there and just cutting off like flowers here and there is that I have this other bed of rudbeckia. So I have rudbeckia. When he cut down that whole section, I still had all this rudbeckia to be able to pick off of. But if we went through and we just took off a few flowers, then it wouldn't actually set it's what we did by hacking them with the hedge trimmer is like doing a reset on the rudbeckia, and by cutting them down so low and cutting them so aggressively like that, it kind of triggers for the plant to like put energy into doing blooms again. And so in the video, because that video was from like end of August, lots of people have been like, oh, Serina, I hope you're fine. Don't worry, I was only sick for like a few days. Ian was only sick, we were basically only sick for the weekends, and that was weeks and weeks ago. We're all fine. It was just a little summer cold. But yeah, so we cut that at the time that we did because at this point we are preparing for Canadian Thanksgiving. So Canadian Thanksgiving is, I should know this because it's coming up, I think October 8th. I'm like, let me get I need to pull up a calendar because I only know things. Okay, Canadian Thanksgiving, I think is the 10th. So it's the 10th. I think the 8th, because the 8th is the day of the market. That's the Saturday. So we needed to get prepared for Canadian Thanksgiving. So by cutting back those rudbeckia, what we were doing is we were resetting the plant so that a few weeks later it'll start to produce some blooms, so that we will have a bunch of blooms that we're able to use for Thanksgiving when we're actually going to need a bunch of flowers. I didn't have to worry about not having rudbeckia because this was here for me. But by cutting back that whole plant, it's gonna make it so we're gonna, in the long run, be able to get more flowers when we need it. The rudbeckia is a great example for how we do that, like hedge trim to it. And another thing that Ian was hedge trimming in that video is snapdragons, and that's like us being super far behind on the work, because with snapdragons, what we really should have done is they should have bloomed out in June, and then we should have hedge trimmed them kind of like at that time, cut the plants down to just the base, and then by doing that, oh, this cat, he's so cute. I haven't seen him all day. He's all cute and snuggly. He's been sleeping somewhere. Yeah, what we should have done is cut the snapdragons down for the summer. They would have kind of gone dormant a little bit because the snapdragons prefer the cool weather over the heat. And then once the nights started to be longer, kind of like as we got into mid-August when Ian was cutting them, they would have started to send up blooms again, so that we'd have like September and October snapdragons. Because he cut them back so late, we probably aren't going to get as many blooms as we would have. But yeah, so it's another good example. Sometimes what looks like really really destructive and really damaging and really aggressive is the best way to manage some of these plants, like in a flower farm type structure, right? Like a lot of these plants behind me, in the entire farm, they're not what you would want to plant into your home garden, because a lot of these plants, oh, Ian's coming. A lot of these plants are actually not super attractive. They look gorgeous in a mass when there's like 400 of them and they're all blooming like crazy. But a lot of the plants, they're they're too tall, they're too leggy, right? Like every cut flower that you grow needs to be leggy because it needs to have a long stem when you cut it. But in a garden type setting, something shorter might actually be a lot more attractive. So, you know, in home gardening for flowers, you would still want to be deadheading your rudbeckia. Well, I mean, maybe not your rudbeckia, but you'd want to be deadheading your plants because taking off the finished flowers is what makes it so they keep blooming. But maybe you wouldn't want to do it in the exact same way. But was bumping the camera. Maybe you wouldn't want to do it in the same way that we do it, where we just hack the entire plant down, because you'd want them to have 1 or 2 flowers still going. Whereas for us, it's more about efficiency and length of stem and production and things like that. So, it looks crazy when we do it, but it's, these are the types of things that you can't cry over when you're a flower farmer, because that's just growing flowers.
The rudbeckia that I hacked down too, it was hard to tell. Like, they looked really nice on the camera, but they were actually not sellable. Like, the tips were all browned and stuff.
Here, I'll grab them.
So, nothing that I was hacking was sellable. We'd already gone through a bunch of times and grabbed all the good stuff. And and then when I hacked it down, it didn't take very long too, because it's like there's stuff under there, and there's new buds coming up. So as soon as you hack it down, it's just in a couple of days you have more flowers coming out of that hedge, right? The hedge really does pump it out.
This is a good example. Like, standing back, I don't know. I'm assuming it looks still pretty good on the camera.
The one looks especially good, but
then as you bring it up closer, and the camera still makes everything look way better, you can see this is garbage. This is no good anymore. Whereas this is actually at the right stage to be picked. This is so this is what everything that Ian was cutting looked like. There's very few of these anymore,
but it could look just a little bit better than this, or a little bit past this on camera too, and it could be past the point where we actually pick it, because it's at the back end of its beautiful life, and so it's just hard to tell sometimes with the camera. The camera doesn't exactly show everything perfectly.
Yeah, and also to this stem itself is a pretty good example of why we need to deadhead it, which is, you can see this right here. This is on the side stem here, it's sending up another bud, right? So these flowers are finished. This plant is gonna, I know, there. This plant is gonna bloom here.
Well, not anymore.
Well, not, yeah. But you can see it's kind of just this little stumpy piece, right? If this flower bloomed there, it wouldn't necessarily be usable for me, whereas both of these have more of a stem. So to make sure that it keeps standing up, full size usable stems, instead of just clustering a bunch of flowers on short stems, you need to be cutting quite deep into the plant, right? So, letting this stay on the plant and bloom isn't gonna help me either.
Yep, that makes sense. We weren't doing it to have less flowers.
And I told them that we did it at the time that we did, so we could have blooms for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we were doing it to have more flowers.
And that we had this to so it wasn't like we wouldn't have rudbeckia.
Yeah, it didn't take very long, and that hedge was pumping them out again.
Yeah, we've started picking a few here and there last week. It's still not a ton, but it's budded up. It'll be ready for Thanksgiving, what we planned.
Yep, we're excited.
What do you have to say on the topic of deadheading?
It's one of those tasks that that we always seem to cut from our list of things to do. It's an easy thing to be oh, we just won't have time for it. You're always kind of doing a little bit of deadheading when you're harvesting, but there's if you had a 4-hour chunk of time a week to just go and deadhead the farm, that could be.
Well, I would argue the goal is
that you're picking everything.
That you're picking everything.
Yeah, but the point is, to keep everything, fresh and moving along. It's just a hard task to keep on top of because it's just us, right? It was just the two of us this year. So we were always kind of cutting it out of the list to do, but
It was very low on the list.
yeah.
Many things
But
went from low to the list into like we're not doing this year.
We
category.
did it. We still did that time because it does produce results, right? And the results are good. Like if you do it, it definitely prolongs the season.
Yeah,
so.
like you have to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Either that or grow things that are like one and done.
Yeah, like you're just doing succession stuff. Or you're harvesting everything for the market.
Yeah. I mean, that is the goal, right? I was saying that, as a flower farm, the goal is to not be deadheading because and the goal is that it doesn't look beautiful and bright. The goal is that it looks green and boring.
Yeah. I have a feeling our farm will always have some level of bloomage going. And there's some flowers that, you don't pick until they're showing some color.
Yeah.
Not everything, you pick at the same time. So, I think
if we got to the point that I was picking everything, Ian would probably insist on gardens.
Yeah. We're getting close to the final vision of the farm. Next year, the farm's going to look really good. The farm looked nice this year, but aesthetics got dropped for function. And, this year, it was hard to plan for the kind of success that the flowers were going to be. And, because the flowers were selling so well in the spring, we've just been crunching all the numbers of all the markets and stuff for accounting for our company.
Yeah, we're not as rich as we thought we were.
Yeah, we still did
we
still
did good. Yeah.
And
the season's not done. Too.
But you can see a drop off as we got so busy in the spring, like the numbers were crazy good in the spring, and then they dropped off as we weren't able to keep up with our succession plantings. And there's other factors too.
I mean, yeah,
there's other factors.
Spring is a strong season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that if we were bringing the right stuff to market, still, there's still lots of potential for. There's the fall has a lot of potential because it's the end of the season. People are kind of maybe ready to, finish their year.
Spring with the dollar signs.
Yeah.
I
think that we could make a lot of money in the fall season when other farms are starting to give up.
Yeah.
And we're we've got things in high tunnels that are frost resistant, and other farmers are just like, oh, this is it, I'm ready for the end. And then we're going to markets and it's like there's nobody else there, right?
Summer is the busiest time at the market, but it also is the time when everyone is at the market. So in the beginning, in the spring, we were doing crazy because there was no one else with flowers. There wasn't a single other person.
We had
market.
We had our whole tulip season, and there wasn't another flower vendor at the market. So, that means to me that
there's a lot.
There's a lot, and that means that there's nobody else in the Okanagan really. Like I don't think if we go to the Vernon market or if we went to the Wednesday market.
Because the Kelowna Saturday market is like the busiest, craziest. So if anyone was going to be anywhere, they'd be there.
But there's other really strong markets that are well supported by the communities in the area, and it's like we could make a tulip season, where it's just like we're doing the Penticton market, we're doing the Vernon market, we're doing the Saturday and the Wednesday markets. It's just insane, right? And maybe we have a little bit of extra staff to help us, pump through those times. But if nobody else is selling these tulip bouquets and they're just selling as fast, like I was selling out at 10:30 in the morning,
and we had no
halfway through the market.
Those were our first markets, right? So we were like, ooh, are flowers gonna sell? Ian had still been like, I don't think it's a good idea to be only flowers, and then we go and we sell out in a minute.
Yeah.
So then we started sending more.
I'm gonna go. I wanted to come say hi, but I gotta go.
Okay.
I'm gonna go get some food for the kids, and
Okay. Are you gonna like cook something,
I don't know.
or is it leftover pizza?
It might be some leftovers. We got a lot of food in the fridge that we got to go through.
Okay. We had a birthday party on the weekend, so
Yeah.
I ate cake for breakfast and lunch today, but there's probably also birthday party pizza leftovers
Yeah.
for dinner.
We had 7,000 tulips last year, or 5,000.
5,000.
5,000, and this year we were bringing in 13,000. So
I don't honestly.
I don't know if that's enough.
I don't know how many. Right, because
it might be 14,000.
it might be even more because I can't I was like, okay, only 12,000, and usually when I like give myself a limit, I then am like, Ian, what about this? Also, should I also buy this?
And then I say, yeah, sure.
Because I remember saying like the most I could do is 7,000, and then we were like, oh, but if we included a greenhouse, then I could do 10,000, and then I ended up being like, but I'm gonna buy a little bit more than that, and then I think I was like, oh, I can't decide, let's buy more, and then I messed up the order, so then I had to resubmit. They didn't get my order, so I had to resubmit the order, and then I actually put more things on it when I resubmitted the order, and then they found the old order, and they're like, but should I add those extra things? And Ian's like, just add those extra things. And then in the summer, they're like, oh, new varieties that like weren't on the list. Does anyone want these? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Send me a couple more thousands of those. So I have no idea. It's not like 20,000.
No,
but like we
it's
could have crept up into like the 15.
The plan is though to plant them into like compost type things, so that they harvest a lot easier. You know, we have to have our harvest time down, and just because, you know, we're trying something different next year, you know, like we're getting bigger next year, doesn't mean that that's our final vision for the farm either. That's like closer to our final vision, but it's,
every year it's still experimenting.
But
it's still, you know.
Oh, my body doesn't like to sit on the
Ian's too
ground.
old.
My hand.
He's making like
my hand is like, oh.
He's making like old man groaning noises.
Well,
he's like 8-step getting up. Here.
Even when I was a kid, I couldn't sit on the ground. I'm never flexible.
Which is a good transition into a question. Are you ringing Bo in to be cute? A squirm worm.
Oh. A wiggler.
He's been here the whole time. He's like,
bye everybody.
Yeah. So one of the questions that like I saw going by was about like the hedge trimmer versus like a sickle to do the deadheading. And I used to do the deadheading with a sickle. And I used like a hand sickle, and I'd go and I'd grab it and I'd just hack it. And like that was like very ergonomic for me, and you know, I liked doing it that way. It gave me lots of control. I was able to then move the plant matter out of the way. But I find like bending over and squatting and movements like that are really comfortable for my body. Like I don't have a lot of issues with bending over, but or like on my hands and knees, like on the ground, those like, you know, I sit on the ground to like do things in my kitchen. I find like standing at a counter is like really uncomfortable. So like I am, you know, just however it is that my body is shaped makes it so I am comfortable down on the ground. But Ian is the opposite. Ian like can't bend over. Like getting down onto the ground to do things is like, you know, I'm always like, Ian, I need you to go on the ground because I need to get like a different angle of like the picture that you're taking for me. I need you to be like looking up. And he'll be like, oh no, not on the ground. Oh, he makes all these groaning noises. So work that, you know, we've kind of set up these systems where work that involves like heavy lifting, you know, I comfortably can do like 50-pound lifts, but I've been trying to aim for less of that this year, because so last year I had all these like health things, and I think there is a chance that, because I never could figure out what was wrong with me, and I think there is a chance that maybe one of the health things that I had was like strain on like the cartilage of the rib cage, and like I think that that's potentially from like too much lifting that was like unweighted. So this year specifically, to not strain myself and not hurt myself, I've been prioritizing only doing 30-pound lifts. So, like I'll load things up less heavy, and then also like making sure that if I'm going to lift something, I'm not lifting one-handed. If it's heavy, I'm making sure to like do like a weighted, a proper, just doing proper lifts. Like I don't have any back issues, so I think because like my core is fairly strong for lifting, I've never hurt my back with lifting, but there is a chance that I have like without realizing it, in the same way that people hurt their backs when they do a lift, maybe I was like hurting my chest, right? Because my back was stabilized, but like up here isn't necessarily stabilized. And so this year, with doing the lighter lifts, I haven't had any health issues. And like in general, like it's doing the lighter lifts have made it so I'm less tired at the end of the day. But Ian is like super strong, right? He like, that is one of his advantages. In the way that I can crawl around comfortably on my hands and knees, one of Ian's advantages is that he can do heavy lifting without it causing as much of a strain on his body, because his body is just built to be really strong. So Ian does like the moving the compost, and like movements like raking. We have these like wider rakes that are big enough that they do like an entire bed. The rakes are like a 32-inch rake, I think, and using that like just destroys me. Like it's one of those tools that I'm like, this, it's just, I'm too short. Like the point at which it is to use it is just like, it's not designed for my height and my strength level. But Ian comes in and he uses his rake and it doesn't strain him at all. So, he does that. But if it's something that involves being down on the ground or bending over and things like that, then that's where I shine. We try to make sure that Ian doesn't do work like that, because there's no point sending Ian out to bend over for an hour and then have him like be in pain the following day. An hour's worth of work, but then he's, only can do half a day's worth of his Ian work the following day because it was something that's so physically difficult for him. So the sickle was great for me. We had used the sickle in the past because there was very little deadheading, because we weren't actually growing that many flowers. But last year we grew a lot more flowers. And so the deadheading work, it was kind of like, hey, this is like a job that would be really nice that Ian could come in and help me out with. But when he went to use the sickle, he found the sickle really physically difficult for him. So we bought the hedge trimmer because the hedge trimmer made like quick work of all that. The hedge trimmer for me is a little awkward. I find the hedge trimmer is just like, and it's the same as the rake. It's like, I'm just too short. It takes like upper body strength instead of like just pivoting. So for me, the hedge trimmer, like I kind of have to hold it up a little bit, even with all the adjusting you can do on the tool. So I find it really hard to use. But Ian's just that little bit taller, so it hangs, and then he just like swings the hedge trimmer. It's super easy for him. So he like, in 4 hours he can go and clean like up, half the farm. So the hedge trimmer's been incredible. But the sickle's good too, is basically my very long-winded answer to tools. I keep saying, like, I'm like, there needs to be, so much of the flower farming is appealing to like women for farming, because like, and I think that sometimes people maybe think that it's less physical. There's this kind of idea that the flower farming is lighter work, where it's exactly the same as any of the other farming. But it'd be really nice if they start making like tools for women, like a wheelbarrow that was just like a little bit shorter. Like the problem with wheelbarrows, like, because the idea of a wheelbarrow is you're supposed to hold your arms out straight, right? And that like when you stand up with your arms out straight, it's lifted, right? You like bend your knees to grab it, and then you put like stand up straight and it lifts it up. But for me, like, I'm just that little bit too short. So when I go to use a wheelbarrow, like I stand up straight with my arms straight and still right on the ground, and then I have to like lift it up with my arm. And now it's not easy to use a wheelbarrow. It's like I'm physically lifting the wheelbarrow, and that's not what it's designed for. And I think that's why, like when you see like women like farmers, they're using things like carts instead of wheelbarrows, and it's like, yeah, because a cart is like you hold it and it's not straining the way a wheelbarrow is, because it's designed to not have to be tall to use it. But yeah, if they could, yeah, hey, just make like a shorter wheelbarrow, please. Like, that would be nice. Or the rakes, right? The problem with the rake is the handle's like a little bit too long because it's designed for someone who's tall. Um, but I don't necessarily like what I'm gonna like hack it off, but then like the angle's weird. I don't know. You know, tools for women, please. Tools, or like doesn't even have to be a gendered thing, right? Tools for 5'6" and shorter. Right? Not all tools have to be designed for 6-foot fulcrum points, right? Yeah, interchangeable handles. That'd be great. Yeah, tools designed for how tall you are. Exactly. People, you get it. About height, not gender. Yeah. Okay, so I did kind of like want to hit on all the points about like the deadheading. Um, because I figured this was like a good deadheading roundup. So there was one more point that I was going to make, and then we can do some questions. I can't go super late, which is part of the reason why I came outside, to make it look so much more pretty. Partially because I had Ian's cell phone. My cell phone, like the data doesn't work really good. That's why I've had to do so many of the live videos started being inside. It drops drops the video when I try to do it, but yeah, we got Ian's, so I might as well appreciate. But it is gonna get dark, so I have like the hour, but probably by the hour point, like I need to get going anyways because there's stuff I have to do. But it'll be dark, so it'll remind me that I need to get going. Okay, but so the one other thing I wanted to talk about the deadheading thing is I wanted to explain the different types of plants that there are, because that's kind of like another thing to understand about what we were doing there, because basically there's 3 different like categories of plants for my thinking. This isn't anyone's official categorization, but I think of things in 3 different categories, and then I think of them as like per season and stuff like that. But I think of stuff as um like uh like a one and done, right? So a sunflower is a pro-cut sunflower is a perfect example. You grow it. I'm like, they're not behind me. You grow it. It makes a single flower on the top of the stem. You cut it, and then it's finished. It's completely done. You don't cut it and then wait for more flowers. And because of that, you have to always be planting it very, very regularly. So the sunflowers, every 2 weeks. Like lots of people plant these like single cut things every week. Every single week, plant it so that you have it there to cut every single week. And another example of this kind of category is the annual baby's breath, Covent Garden baby's breath. It blooms, it looks beautiful for like a week, but if you want to have it there for you to use, you have to always be planting it. And then there are things that are like single cuts, but you can get multiple flushes off of the same plant, right? And so the rudbeckia are a good example of that, and the snapdragons are a good example of that, or the lisianthus is a good example of that, but maybe not for me. And so the idea of those is they bloom, they set up a bunch of blooms, they look great, and then if you cut everything off in a month or two, the plant kind of like gets its energy back, and then it grows again. And a lot of these like kind of more spring plants, like the rudbeckia, so feverfew, this is my feverfew, and it is blooming a little bit. but like normally my Feverfew doesn't do it, but lots of people say Feverfew sends a second flush in the fall. Lots of people say that yarrow, you cut it in the spring, it kind of goes dormant for the summer, and then it blooms again for the fall. So there's lots of things like this, but and this is why it's relevant to deadheading. For those plants to do that, you need to cut them back, and you need to cut them back quite aggressively. If you just take the flowers off the top, like what I was talking about, right? Like if you in with this, right? Like with the rudbeckia, if you went and you just topped the single flower off, then you're gonna have the blooms still up near the top of the plant, right? If you want them to send up the stems that are going to be usable, kind of what I was saying about the rudbeckia, you need to hack that plant. You need to be like, get out of here, kind of make the plant think that it's maybe like winter has come and it's killed off the entire plant, and it's another year again. So there's lots of plants that are like that, and those are great because you can get like more than one cut from it, but that also does mean you have to like take up space, right? So for the Feverfew, I left it, like I have lots of space, but if I only wanted it for the spring, when it was done, I should have just ripped it out if I wasn't thinking that I was going to be able to get a second cut on it. Same as the rudbeckia. I could treat it like a one and done plant, or so you can leave it and kind of get more out of it, but you need to plan for that. Okay, and then the third category, my other category, is things that are cut and come again. And so the perfect example for that is zinnias, right? As long as you keep cutting off the zinnia plants, the zinnias keep sending up more and more buds. And a lot of the cut and come again plants are stuff that you want to like pinch, right? To, you pinch them, and then it like makes it send up even more flowers when you do that. And every time you cut it aggressively, and it just keeps blooming, and it goes for, the one thing about the cut and come again plants is they don't go all year, right? So, and zinnias are a perfect example. My zinnias, they started blooming at the beginning of August. Here we are, like end of September, and they're pretty much done. They're still like limping out flowers here and there, but if I really wanted to be picking off of the zinnias like all season long, even though they are cut and come again, I should still be doing succession plantings, right? Because the first couple, when I think of cut and come again plants, I think of it as like the bell curve of production. So like week 1, there's like of it blooming. There's some plants. Week 2, there's week 1, there's some flowers. Week 2, there's more flowers. Week 3 and 4, oh my god, there's a million flowers. And then week 5, there's still a good amount of flowers. Week 6, oh, I wish I had more flowers. And then it piddles out until the plant, either gives up or gets diseased. But because it's this curve, right? So if you plant, you planted them in May, and so it curves like this, and as it's dipping, you planted something in June and it's curving, and that dip is then meeting a spike on the next planting, and then you plant again, and it's as it's curving down, your third succession is spiking again, and that's how you keep a consistent high level of production on the cut and come again flowers. But deadheading specific, back to that, like the rudbeckia and all that, it's only if the flowers are being cut off that it's going to keep doing that arc, right? If those first flowers you left there, let them bloom, because the plant's entire goal, like a flower plant's goal, is to produce a flower, not because it wants to look beautiful, because it wants the flowers to like, hey, bee, come, oh, look how beautiful I am. Bee, don't you want to come hang out with me? And then the bee comes, and it like pollinates the center of the flower, and the flower's like, yeah, I'm so good looking that the bee hung out with me and not this neighbor over here. Haha, if you're as good looking as me, you would have gotten pollinated. Haha, you don't get any babies, right? Sucks to be that guy. Right? And then it wants to die. It wants to die back, and it wants to put all of its energy into this. This is what it's all about, not the petals. The petals don't matter. That's why it drops them, right? They're like, get out of here. Keeps maturing, and then it's full of like little babies, right? Because this is like where the seeds are, right? So all of that, that's seeds. That's its goal. It wants to make seeds because it wants to have a million babies, and then it wants to throw its babies all over the place and be like, "Ha, I live again!" Like now I can die in peace because I made like 8,000 babies, and there will be another generation of rudbeckia in the following year. Like my purpose in life is completed. I can now die a satisfied flower life, and then it doesn't have to flower again, right? So the only way that you keep getting flowers is you come and you're like, oh, you want to like make babies, do you? Like, cut. Like, no, there's no babies for you. Like, you better send up some more babies if you wanna make babies. Like, you keep trying to make babies, and I'm gonna keep getting rid of all of your efforts, because it needs to still have that goal. If you leave the flowers, it sets seeds, it's going to stunt the plant, it's going to slow down the plant, and it's done, right? It thinks it doesn't need to do anymore. So you have to be deadheading those flowers off, no matter what type of flower it is. The rudbeckia, we cut those, but the zinnias too, right? If you leave the zinnias to bloom, it's not gonna get as many blooms. So you need to be cutting everything. I don't know. I think that pretty much explains it. But yeah, so deadheading is important, no matter what kind of plants they are. Probably the only, like in those categories, the only one where you don't have to think about deadheading is like the one and dones, right? Like the sunflowers. But you may want to think about deadheading because of what I was saying about them throwing seeds everywhere. I have sunflowers all over my farm this year, because we didn't deadhead all the sunflowers that didn't get sold. And even though the pro cuts are like pollenless, they still did end up making like enough seeds that that I have weeds of flowers everywhere. So it like if you're trying to keep like seeds out of your garden, and a perfect example is cosmos are like make a huge mess, and I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff that I have this year that are going to be like messy type things too. There's like we had the auric, or like amaranths, like once they get established into your garden and set seeds, like they just they can be really aggressive. Baby's breath is really aggressive for setting seed. So it is good to deadhead those just to prevent weeding that you'll need to do in future years, because a weed is just a plant that you don't want to don't want growing where it's growing, and even if it is something that you would normally like growing, like rudbeckia. Rudbeckia is a great example for me, because I have it everywhere. It's all over the farm, because it's self-seeded everywhere. And I'm always tempted to leave it. I'm like, oh, but it's rudbeckia. I love rudbeckia, but there's only so much of everything that you need. But yeah, so I don't know. Hopefully that makes sense why we're cutting down all those things for everyone who had the questions. And then so I have some time to do questions. So if you guys have any questions about deadheading specifically, that's great. We should do those because we're on theme. But I can do any sort of questions. Yeah, plant biology class. I definitely I'm not the person to teach you how flowers work, but I get the idea. I get the concept, right? And like what I was saying about like how seeds get made, right? Is exactly the reason why I don't save seeds too, right? Because like this flower being like, hey bee, come like hang out with me and help me make babies, by doing that, like you don't know where that bee's been. You don't know what kind of diseases that bee has. You need to be careful about the bees you're hooking up with. But so if I want this exact type of rudbeckia, and I have so many different types of rudbeckia all over my farm. I don't know that the rudbeckia that it's being pollinated with is going to be the rudbeckia that I want it to be pollinated with. So I don't know what these babies are going to look like. And so much of what we grow, like I want exactly what it is, right? Like I don't want to grow like surprise Indian summer. I want real Indian summer. I want zinnias that are red, not mystery zinnias. So for me, like, you know, it makes a lot of sense, because if I wanted this to be pollinated with exactly what it was pollinated with, I'd have to like put a bag on it before it opened, and then, you know, I'd have to come and I'd have to like, you know, get another one and like open the bag and make sure there's no bees around and like pollinate it and put the bag back on. It's just very complicated. Okay, so someone was asking about the second market. So in the video that we did where we did the two markets in the same week, which, and you know, lots of people have been asking about that. So, you know, I wonder if like maybe we weren't super clear in the video about what our intention was with the with that market. But so we weren't looking to learn about that market for this year. We were going to that market as like a learning experience, because we need to make plans for selling next year. We're just really busy, right? So the stand keeps us busy, the one market keeps us busy, all the other things we have going on in our life keeps us busy. So we don't necessarily have time to be doing 2 markets a week this year. But the plan is that we're going to hire someone for next year, and by hiring someone, that's going to like clear up all the days that Ian helps out on the farm, which is going to give him more days for being able to do things like going to the market. So we wanted to go check out this market because we want to have like numbers to, you know, to like plan for. You know, we have, like, we're friends with other farmers, so, you know, we like can talk to people about, oh, like, how's this market, what do you guys think, how's, like, is it good? But that's just general ideas. And before we went to that Sunday market, I did like talk to another farmer who is selling there, and I was like, hey, what do you think, how is it? Because I wanted to know how much to send down, right? I didn't want to send like $2,000 if she's like, well, probably only gonna sell like $300, like, don't go crazy. Yeah, so we went to as like getting information. It was like a reconnaissance mission for 2023, not necessarily for 2022. And we did want to do it twice. We wanted to go 2 times. And so the goal was to go twice, so then we could see, oh, was that one market? Because we looked back at the numbers, and I think we did, it was like $600 or $700, which was like pretty decent for like a quiet secondary market. But it's like, was that just a fluke? Was that a really busy day? We wanted to go a second time to see if we went again, if it would have been the same, right? To know how good our data from the single market was. The one thing we've been talking about is potentially doing that market, right? Because $600 isn't quite worth it, right? Like, markets need to be $1,000 because they take a lot of time. Like, if we don't think that market could eventually do $1,000, then we're better off to aim towards like a different place or a different market, right? So like we were like, okay, if we could sell $600-700 at this market, that's great. But if we can also do like a CSA next year that has like a downtown pickup at that market, so we're actually moving, you know, $1,000 worth of product out of that market, then that makes a lot more sense, right? Because like, it's a half an hour away, right? So if we were gonna do like a CSA pickup and we had a 1 hour window, which is like not not great for people. But if we were going to do that, like instead of the market, that's like 2 hours, right? Because it's an hour of driving and then an hour of sitting around waiting for people to pick it up. Or even if we had a downtown location for pickup, it's an hour of driving and a half an hour to set up at the location for people to come pick up. So it still takes time. So if we could pair something up like that, then that would work really well for us, just for maximizing efficiency. But yeah, so we're thinking if we can do that we'll go ahead for that market. But there's other market options, right? We could do the Kelowna Farmers Market. The Saturday is like the really big day. But I don't think there's anyone who does flowers on the Wednesday. So, if the Kelowna Farmers Market is like, it can do $1,500 on the Saturday, maybe there's a good chance we could do $1,000 on the Wednesday, right? And, maybe, so it like, yeah, we couldn't do any sort of pickup at that market for the CSA. But maybe, the problem is, like, we couldn't go with stuff in the truck and then drop it off after, just because it's too hot. That would be that'd be too much for the flowers. So we'd have to have some sort of cooler type situation, and then it gets complicated. But there's like the Vernon Farmers Market. Ian was kind of saying there's lots of markets that we could do with the spring stuff. Vernon, I think, is on Thursday and Tuesday, maybe Monday and Thursday. I don't know. And it's like not too far from our house because we're kind of halfway between Vernon and Kelowna. But yeah, so it's just all thinking about like what we can do, but also having to think practically about time, right? So like we don't really want it's like how can we get a workflow that will work well? It's not only about like what can I sell next week. We'd rather sell nothing next week to someone, right? Like rather than like being like, oh, we're gonna put all our energy into making sure that every single one of these rudbeckia in this bed gets sold, and we're gonna run around and we're gonna sell it to all these places where we don't plan on selling anything to ever again. It's the long game to do what we do, which is we're like, no, we're not going to sell to those places that we don't want to sell to. We're not going to put any focus on the things that don't make sense once we're bigger. We're just going to stay focused on slowly building a workflow and a customer base that can grow into the point at which it's actually going to make us a lot more money than the smaller business ideas that could make us money now, right? So we're betting on the future at the risk of our current money flow. But that's kind of like the concept that it's always been from the beginning with our like 5-year plan idea, which is don't build the business that you have, build the business that you want to have. And it seems like it's working out, right? And every year we do little bits of pivots, but we try to be really practical about is this gonna work? And if it's not like a very clear yes, we try to think creatively still, because there are so many clear yeses for us to do, that we shouldn't waste our time on an experiment where like maybe this will work. We should just like stay focused on the obvious. Okay, that's my rant about the markets. Let's see if you guys had any questions in here. Someone's saying that don't see people buying flowers next year with the inflation and everything. We should do food. And like I would agree, right? But the point of that is know your market, right? And I would say if I wasn't where I currently am, it would be not very smart of me to be starting a flower farm. Because if I was someplace where the cost of food going up was making it so they didn't actually have any spending money, then food's the way to go, because when you don't have any money, you spend that money on food. But we're in an area that's really affluent, right? And so As we kind of proved this year, at a certain point, targeting the people who have money will sometimes get you more money than targeting the thing that everyone will buy, and trying to figure out how to sell it to them, right? Because we had nothing but problems selling the food, and we've had nothing but success selling the flowers. So, and like, it is what it is. If people stop buying flowers, um, it's only 1 year to pivot back to food. But it's very obvious that like flowers are what we're going to be doing going into the future, though. Like our passion is really about growing food, and it was sad for us, the lack of food that we got to grow this year. So our plan is with more time having an employee, we want to grow more food, and not to sell, right? We'll have like food that can be for like us and the employee, and then we're going to plant some stuff for the food bank, because we really like being able to get food into the community through the food bank. And so we'll do kind of like a different type of crop planting. We'll grow some stuff that is easy to grow, easy to manage, stuff that stores really well, because the food bank kind of has like a once a week delivery. So we'll probably do some stuff like cucumbers and zucchinis, things that we can pick it throughout the week, have it in the cooler, and then once a week bring a big tote down to the food bank. And it's not a huge labor investment to grow those things, but there's stuff that's really appreciated down at the food bank, stuff that people like to have weekly, and that they don't the food bank has lots of stuff that they get, but stuff like that is like good for them, right? And we can talk to our local food bank and be like, hey, what are the things that like were really appreciated, and then we can balance that to like the workflow and grow some stuff for them. Okay, how's the other project coming along, the one you guys are selected for? Oh, you're talking about our movie. So that's part of the I'm just scrolling up through the thing. Yeah, so we have like this filmmaking project that we're doing, and it's due in mid-October. And so we're kind of like we knew the summer was going to be crazy, so we like planned for this like window that we're in right now, for doing a lot of work on it. And that's part of the reason why the videos have been a little slower to be coming out on the YouTube. We've been really busy working on that project, because it's like we put a lot of effort into the YouTube videos, but we're planning on putting infinitely more effort into this like filmmaking project. So yeah, it's been keeping us busy, and we'll be pretty busy with it, like into the first half of October, and then I think that's like, I can't remember the dates, but mid-October is when our first cut of it is due, and then we're gonna have another big chunk of work on it after we get a bunch of feedback. Like we're really excited about it. It's like it's the entire year. So we have like, it's gonna be like the spring and then the summer, and it's all about like the things that are hard and the things that are fun, and it's like it's gonna be quite short compared to what we normally make. Our goal, we're aiming for like 20 to 30 minutes on it, even though it is like way more than what we normally tell in the vlogs. So yeah, we're really excited about how it's coming along. But we don't know when we'll be able to share it with you guys, because we have to submit it to, because it's being put on like community access television. So we have to submit it to them, and I think like the final submission date, which includes like having to have like credits and like a movie poster and stuff like that. But I think the final submission date is in like December. And then we can't share it. We can't get permission to share it with you guys until after they have released it. So we don't actually know when when we'll be able to share it with you guys. We know we have like permission to like put it into like film festivals. Oh, my my irrigation is turning on. But I have hours before it gets down here. Yeah, like I don't know when we'll be able to put it on YouTube. So next summer, I'm assuming for sure we'll be able to do it. But yeah, we're excited about it. It's exciting to see it finally come together after we've been working on it and talking about it for months and months. Okay, I have time for one more question, but it is getting dark. I was right. It was the perfect window for timing to come out here. I like doing these. It's a bummer that my cell phone like sucks so much for being able to do these live videos, because it's fun, right? Like this is like way more fun to be like out in the farm doing this stuff, rather than in the house in my dreary living room with bad lighting. Though we are getting to that season where the weather's going to be bad, so we're for sure going to be back in there. Okay, so what we have coming up for the channel, we're not going to be doing the live video next week. We have something booked for then. So it'll be like at least 2 weeks before we do a live again. We have a vlog about going to the market that we're working on, but we've like just started working on it. So I don't think it'll be out probably until next week. It'll be a quiet week. But yeah. So like we're not ignoring the channel. We haven't given up on making YouTube videos, even though it has been a quiet month. We have oh Bo, you're cute. We've had a lot of stuff that we're working on, but there's some really fun stuff that we're going to be having for sharing with you guys. Even though we're kind of getting to the end of our market season, we have that Thanksgiving weekend that we'll do a market, and we'll make like a whole vlog about that. And I'm excited about that one because last Thanksgiving was the biggest market of the year. So there's a good chance that that market is going to be a really fun video, because we have like a bunch of stuff that's planted to bloom like just for Thanksgiving. We're going to like make a really big push for it. And then I have like a bunch of like dried flower projects to do. I hope I have enough dried flowers that I can finally maybe make some wreaths, like even if I don't sell them, to at least make wreaths, like to like make a video about that for you guys. Yeah, the sedums, we got some sedums coming. We have like all of our bulbs coming. Like I'll make sure to definitely do a video about unboxing them. We'll probably make a vlog about putting them in the ground. We have this big project that we're doing for the daffodils. We're doing like something weird with the daffodils. So I think that would make an interesting video. And then we also have, our big peony section that we're putting in, which I think would make a really fun vlog. So yeah, there's lots of good content coming up. Less selling themed, more like how to farm, like more stuff on the farm, right? Which I always like. I know that the going down to the farmer's market is exciting, right? So that's fun for the videos, and I know the videos always perform really well. But it's also limiting, because then we can't show you on the farm stuff. So yeah, there's some fun content coming, and then like every year in December, we also make content that's like end of year stuff. Like we crunch all our numbers and share with you guys how much we made on the farm for the year. Like we've in the past done one about how much we've made on YouTube. I'm all about the farm, so I don't find that one very interesting, but it tends to make money, and so Ian's always like, it makes money, and I'm like, well, I do like money, so maybe we'll make that one. We're too busy with our filmmaking project to be able to make like a horror movie Halloween video. But like we might still be able to get together something for Halloween. It just won't be as big as Flowerface. Yeah, team money. But yeah, Ian and I loved doing the Flowerface video, so it would be fun to do something Halloween themed. Um, but Okay, I gotta go. I'm sure the video quality is getting like real stinky considering how dark it is and how bad it looks on the screen. But yeah, thanks so much, guys. Thanks for hanging out. And yeah, watch out for that video coming up next week. Okay, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Okay, bye now.